Cody, I am so glad to have you on board today.
Oh, well, it's always a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, Robbie.
It's always a pleasure, always a pleasure. Hello, everybody, and today me and Cody are doing something brand new and completely different. Me and Cody, I think Cody as well, but people who know me know I'm a fan of international cinema. I know you are too as well, Cody.
Yeah.
Yes, and today I picked this one. I'll let Cody pick next time we do this. I picked my favorite French movie and one of my favorite horror films of the last decade, Julia Ducournau's Titane. Before I ask Cody these questions, I just want to ask, what were your first time thoughts on this movie?
Um, let's see. What am I watching? Okay. What kind of movie is this? Is this a psychological horror film? Is this a body horror film? Is this the love child of David Lynch and David Cronenberg? Did this become a family drama? What's going on? I don't know, but it's not boring.
Yes, yes. So we are. So this is a spoiler. So I do advertise that people should watch this movie blind without knowing anything about it.
Yeah. I think you should go in not knowing a darn thing about this movie, though I did know about the car sex.
Yes, probably because you watched mine and Justin's video on this. Me and Justin have talked about this film when we both watched it. But yes, so my first question I wanted to ask you based on the film was, what aspects of the narrative or style do you think contributed to its uniqueness compared to the other Palme d'Or winners? As I mentioned before, this hasn't really got the same love triangle of sadness or anatomy of a fall did.
Well, if we're talking about those two films specifically, because those two went on to get Oscar nominations, and I think Anatomy of a Fall won an Oscar. I can't remember if Triangle of Sadness won any or not.
No, it didn't.
But this is definitely not a linear typical narrative film compared to those two. Those two are very much easily digestible, even if you are not a French speaking, or what language do they speak in Triangle of Sadness? Is that also French?
It's English, but it's made in Sweden.
Sweden. So, yeah, that one definitely because they speak English, but Anatomy of a Fall, even if you don't know French that well, it's a very easily, it's just a courtroom drama. And, Triangle of Sadness is a bit of a satire slash drama. But those are easily followed plots, whereas this film is not. You have to pay attention to this movie.
Yeah, yeah. Because I know you're a fan of David Cronenberg and David Lynch and Terry Gilliam,
Oh,
and
for sure.
I know a lot of people who probably wouldn't like this film because they like more grounded realism. They don't like the wacky and bonkers films that we do.
Yeah, this is not a film for everyone. But if you do like all those mentioned directors above, you will at least find this film interesting, even if you don't completely enjoy it.
Yes, yes. So as far as I'm aware, the whole symbolism of this concept is all about exploring identity, particularly gender and sexuality. How do you think the film interprets those themes?
I think you saying that makes definitely sense of like what's going on with our main protagonists and the journey they go on and what happens at the end. I think it has a lot to say about gender and sexuality, gender roles, and uh, female autonomy and body autonomy. I think it has a lot to say about that. I don't know if it's clear cut, but there's definitely a lot of symbolism in this film dealing with all of those things.
Definitely, definitely. And yeah, like you said, this film blends a lot of different genres together. Does it blends horror, not just horror, but body horror, and there is a whole segment, there is a whole subplot about that has a dramatic kind of side to it that really ties in with the movie during the halfway point.
Yeah, at first you think, okay, is this like a serial killer story going on? And then the body horror elements start happening. And then for a good 45 minutes to an hour, it becomes like a family drama.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Vincent London, that's the name of the main guy, I thought he was fantastic.
Oh, yeah, I thought he was an incredible performance. That's the fire chief, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he kind of becomes the second lead of the movie.
Absolutely, and I love his character arc because he comes off as like this ultra macho male, but really that's just a facade, and he's really this very empathetic and sweet person who just wants love. Like he's lost his child, his relationship has not worked out because of the loss of his
And
child.
he's addicted to injections.
Yeah, and he's just looking for a human connection with someone. And truly, he's probably the first person to really show our protagonist. Well, I don't even know if I want to call them the protagonist, the lead character of the story, like compassion, really.
Yes, definitely. How do you think all of that intersects and contribute with the depth of the movie?
I think tremendously. I think this person has an extreme character change because if you look at the environment they were growing up in and the environment they're working in and how they treat other people, I think his compassion and then eventually him not even caring that it's not his son truly shows like, there are good people in this world. And I think it kind of, even though it's a bit of Stockholm syndrome and them trying to not get caught by the authorities, I think it does give them a character change near the end of the film.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And as you probably know from one of my previous videos, Julia Ducournau is my favourite director in French cinema. Do you think do you think she did a good job trying to communicate through this bold and controversial approach to storytelling?
Well, I think it's definitely a very stylistic and well-made film, and it's definitely interesting approach to this material. Indeed.
Definitely, definitely. How did you think of it as a story, like on paper?
I I think this would be a lot more difficult to read than watch, honestly. I don't even know how this would work, like just reading it on the page.
Is it because the film kind of also features limited dialogue, which I also think helps for people who aren't familiar with international films, so they don't have a lot of subtitles reading, you can just watch what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, you can read like the actors' emotions, like how they're reacting and their body language without them talking.
Definitely.
So,
So you think this is more of a directing driven movie than a script based movie?
absolutely. Absolutely. I think the script, if anything, probably resembled more of an outline than like a dialogue heavy script. I think this movie relies completely on the direction.
Definitely, definitely. Random question: have you ever seen her previous movie Raw?
I have not seen her previous film Raw. I've heard about it. I know that it's widely regarded. And my question to you is that more of a I know it's also body horror, but is that more horror than this film? Like is it more just
Uh,
straight horror?
with Raw, it's more slow burn, more story driven, more character development because she starts off as a vegan and then exalts into cannibalism. So yeah, Raw. I think Raw is a bit more appreciated because it's a bit more story driven. You'll have to check it out one day.
Oh,
But
for sure.
the main girl in Raw is the same girl at the start of the first movie who she kills, and both that character have the same name. They're both called Justine.
Oh, interesting. So the girl that's also at the car show that she kills later in that house was the lead of Raw.
Yeah,
Okay.
and both characters are called Justine.
Connections, themes.
Yes, yes. So the ending had many viewers with different interpretations. How did you interpret the conclusion of the film, and what do you think it signifies in the context of the overall story?
Oh, that's such a deep question, man. I don't even know if I really know the answer to that. I mean, you could say that the birth of this motor human child is like a rebirth for her, even though she dies at the end. And it's also kind of like a new beginning for the fire chief as well, because he gets to be a father again.
Yeah, that is a good way. That is a good way of exploring it. So with yeah, that is probably the best way. I always see it as like, yeah, this is the start of a new generation of mankind.
Hmm.
A new specimen has to create his own identity choices in the future.
Yes, yes, it's a new path, it's a new beginning for each generation to become an individual and not do the same things that the previous generation.
Yeah, and that's what I think works about this movie. Yeah. Do you have any other questions for me about this movie?
So, why do you think it's the subject matter, or do you think it's the storytelling structure of why this one didn't catch on like internationally past the Cannes Film Festival and some horror circles?
I feel like yeah, it is more limited to horror fans. I am happy that the BAFTAs managed to recognise this film. They did nominate Julia for Best Director, but I know she was never going to beat Jane Campion.
Well, Jane Campion was also overdue for an award for directing.
Exactly, but Julia isn't an award-winning director just yet.
But I
She's
mean, the Cannes Film Festival is famous for sometimes rewarding films that are otherwise not as well regarded elsewhere. But I think the reviews for this are fairly positive. It's just, it's not an awards movie, I guess, for US audiences.
no, probably my little horror award thing I do, but that's about it. So, what do you think distinguishes Titane as a work of art, and how does it contribute to cinema's exploration of these subjects and strong narratives?
I think it purely lies with the direction and the choice of how they tell the story. I think that's what makes it unique. Is it easy to watch? No. But like I said, it's not a boring film. And even if it's not something you're going to enjoy, at least it's doing something interesting and daring, which a lot of films these days are not doing. So I'm going to give a movie at least a chance if it's doing those things.
Yes, definitely. And I know you're big on directors. Do you think Julia's a good director so far?
I mean, it's the only film I've seen of hers, but yeah, I can definitely tell she's a skilled director with a visual storytelling sense. Like, there's a personality behind the camera. She's not just setting up shots and getting from point A to point B.
Yeah, definitely. You can tell she's her own unique auteur. Yes, and that's what I like about this movie. Another random question I have: What movies would you say this movie is like? Because I find it hard to compare movies like this.
Uh, I definitely think this would be a lot like David Lynch's Eraserhead, his debut film. I
Yeah,
can see a lot of ties in that. I haven't seen this Cronenberg film. I don't think it really classifies as a body horror, but due to the car sex, I think his film Crash probably has would be something it would be akin to as well.
that sounds interesting.
Yeah, like I said, this felt like the love child of David Lynch and David Cronenberg.
Yes, yes, to say both adopted a daughter, it would be Julia.
But yeah, I mean, you know, any Cronenberg film probably. I feel like she's got to be a Cronenberg fan.
Must be, must be. I know and I know that Tronnenberg's children are branching on to this another movie. I think similar to this is one called Possessor.
That's Brandon. It's not his first film, but it's his previous film before.
Infinity Pool, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I kind of like that one for being weird. I don't know. I just have this thing for horror films that are just like really art based, but also a bit bonkers.
Hmm.
I think that's why I got along well with Cronenberg. I know Carpenter's a bit more tamed, but the thing is kind of very similar to these kind of movies.
Oh yeah, the thing is definitely more in the body horror element, but yeah, Carpenter is not as structurally storytelling purposes. It's much more linear storytelling for the most
Yeah,
part.
yeah, definitely, definitely. So, yeah, is there anything else you want to discuss about this movie?
I mean, what specifically do you love about this movie?
I like how unique it is and how it's like a concept that you think, wait, what? When somebody tells you about it. And then, like, you're kind of interesting with this high concept. You just have to watch it. And for some reason, this film is very entertaining. Like the horror elements really make me laugh.
Hmm. Uh, do you think if this film wasn't French, would it have won the Palme d'Or?
I don't know the ins and outs of why it won the Palme d'Or. I know it was like the first winner after COVID.
Hmm.
Or maybe just the jury just was a bunch of horror fans that year.
That's really what it relies on is who's in the jury each year, because if you look at all the past winners, it varies from year to year what wins.
And that's what I like. I like the more diverse audience than new, fresher people to judge these movies. Because yeah, like the Globes and the Oscars are finally getting a bit more diverse, but it feels like with Cannes they're a lot more ahead of like diversity than the other awards are.
Well, yeah, rewarded David Lynch a Best Film Award back in 1990 when other people were saying that film was trash. So, but I mean, the French have always been kind of ahead of filmmakers that were kind of looked upon elsewhere. Like they loved John Carpenter, they loved Hitchcock before other people loved Hitchcock. You know.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. So, how would you rate this movie?
What are we talking on scale?
I'd say just out of 5 and out of 10, because I would. So I think this is kind of a perfect movie.
Okay, so I don't love it quite as much as you do, but I definitely would say it's at least a 7.5 out of a 10 for me.
Yeah, that sounds a bit right. It sounds like you don't have like massive flaws with the movie. It's just you don't love it as much as I do.
No, it's nothing against the film or how it was made or anything it's about. It was just, I started it late at night and it's a little hard to follow and it's not exactly the easiest movie to watch, but it wasn't boring.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Because I do like the opening scene and obviously the whole, and then obviously the fast forward to her obviously being an adult. You find out she's a serial killer, and obviously she ends up doing it with a car. She ends up murdering her friends at a party. She ends up she ends up on the run. In the background, this boy is has gone missing for years, and she disguises, "Oh, I'll kill two birds with one stone and pretend to be the boy."
Hmm. Yeah, like at first I was like, okay, this is a serial killer movie. And actually, I totally didn't even feel bad about her killing that one guy at the beginning of the movie because he was kind of a creep.
Yeah,
But then she killed that girl and then had to kill all those other people because more and more people kept being in the house, which is a horrible, but it's also kind of funny because it's like, oh, darn it, there's a witness.
yeah. And the way how the kills are shot just come across hilarious.
Yeah, also I found it very odd that no one in that house seemed like something was off except for the girl that escaped.
Yeah,
Like all these other people are just like, "What are you doing?" They're just like, "Hey, how's it going?" Like they should have been a little more concerned of what was going on.
definitely,
But
definitely,
maybe they were all inebriated. I don't know.
maybe, maybe, but yeah, yeah. I am glad that you checked out this movie. I hope you end up checking out Raw one day, so we can probably talk about that in the future. If you have a suggestion for an international film that we should discuss, let me know. And if you are watching this, thank you all for watching. Make sure you give this video a like and subscribe. If you haven't seen Titane while you're watching this video, go and see it now. And also let me know in the comments if you are watching this and have seen the movie and want to discuss your opinions on this about its themes or how it's made, or even just your opinion on it, whether you hated it, loved it, or felt a bit in the middle.
I could totally understand opinions of all the above on this too. Like if someone hated this movie, I'd be like, I get it. I get it. Or, you know.
It just
So
it just when I describe the plot to somebody, I don't want people to think that it's like this corny B movie that was made on a low budget.
yeah, no, it definitely isn't. It's well made indeed, and it seems like it's got significant production value. If you're in the US, this film is streaming on Hulu right now.
Yes, I think if you're in the UK, this film is on Channel 4OD. So go out and watch it and let us know your opinion in the comments. Cody, it's been an absolute blast talking to you about this movie, and I'll see you very soon, my friend.
Yes, thanks for having me again. Always a pleasure, and thanks for introducing me to a film I hadn't watched yet.
It's all right. It's all right. I'm always full of recommendations, Cody. So always ask away. Right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.